I'm not a fan of hers at all, and I think she's very disrespectful to the Queen that we just spoke about, who's such a great woman, who's such a great person.
Here are 13 moments when Meghan appeared to show disrespect toward the Queen without seemingly giving it a second thought. And make sure you stay until number 10, because that particular moment was so striking that it reportedly left people around the palace stunned. You have probably already seen this one, because it has been widely discussed as one of the clearest examples of perceived disrespect toward the Queen in their Netflix documentary, which came out not long after the Queen passed away. In the documentary, Meghan openly made fun of the very tradition that represents respect toward the monarch, which is the curtsy. What made the moment even more uncomfortable for some viewers was that Harry was right there, smiling as though everything was perfectly fine, appearing amused, while Meghan joked about a tradition he had known and followed for most of his life. There was seemingly nothing he could do in that moment. It is no surprise that Princess Camilla was later portrayed as suggesting that Meghan had influenced Harry so strongly that he had become almost like a puppet, simply waiting for someone else to pull the strings. Many people interpreted Meghan's gesture as mocking the Queen and making light of royal protocol, and the more you look at the moment, the more you can understand why so many people considered it significant. I mean, Americans especially will understand just how unusual that kind of public mockery can seem when it involves a deeply respected tradition.
And to realize this is a big deal. I mean, Americans will understand this. We have medieval times, dinner and tournament. It was like that. Like I curtsied as though I was like, pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. Like, was that okay?
Queen Elizabeth had surprisingly few things that she could truly consider completely her own. The palaces, priceless jewels, grand estates, and royal possessions were all connected to the crown rather than being personal belongings. But her childhood nickname, Lilibet, the special name her grandfather gave her when she was a little girl, was different. That name was deeply personal, private, and filled with decades of memories, making it incredibly meaningful to her. And according to reports, Meghan knew exactly how significant that name was when she chose it for her daughter. The Queen was reportedly so upset by the decision that she told aides, "The one thing I own is my name, and now they have taken that too." Think about that for a moment. A woman who had spent her entire life putting duty, service, and the monarchy ahead of herself was reportedly left feeling as though even something as personal as her own cherished name had been taken away from her. And then, as if that was not enough, Meghan continued using and publicly promoting the name while also making moves connected to trademarking it, which raised even more eyebrows. There was no obvious public apology, no visible sign of regret, and seemingly no pause to reflect on how deeply personal the name was to the Queen. To many critics, it simply looked like Meghan continuing to do exactly what she wanted regardless of how others might feel.
That the late Queen told aides after the Sussexes, that's Meghan and Harry, chose the name Lilibet for their daughter. I don't own the palaces or the paintings, only my name. And now they've taken that.
I know that is an incredibly sad thing to hear, and it makes the situation feel even more painful. One reason people became so suspicious about the whole situation was the discovery that Meghan had reportedly taken steps to secure certain names even before Lilibet was born, apparently making them official so they could later be used to identify or promote products. At the same time, the HRH title remained a major part of the public identity and financial value connected to Meghan, which is why some people believe giving it up was never really an option for her. You can even look at the situation from this perspective. Meghan married into the royal family and gained enormous attention through her connection to the monarchy and the HRH title. So walking away from that association completely would have meant giving up something that had become extremely valuable to her public image. Then, when the Queen made it clear as part of the 2020 departure agreement that Harry and Meghan would no longer use the HRH styling, they appeared to accept the arrangement and gave the impression that they would respect those terms and stop using it. But that decision became much more complicated when questions continued to emerge about how closely they were actually following the spirit of the agreement.
Meghan Markle, she's sparked more outrage after publishing a message addressing herself as Your Royal Highness, despite her and Harry having agreed to stop using their royal titles after they quit the royal family and left the United Kingdom. What's going on here? You can't have these titles if you're not going to put in the work, if you're not going to be a working royal.
Later reports from royal sources claim that Meghan was still using the HRH designation on things such as gift cards, and even when sending or delivering gifts to other people. If those reports were accurate, many viewed it as a direct and serious disregard for the agreement that had been made. Instead of stepping away from the royal styling as expected, the continued use of it became another source of criticism and controversy. At this point, critics argue that Meghan is no longer concerned about what the palace thinks and is focused primarily on building her own public image and making enough money to maintain the lifestyle she has chosen. To those critics, Harry and Meghan have increasingly become comparable to Fergie and Andrew, another royal couple whose public controversies were seen as damaging to the reputation of the monarchy. In their view, every new commercial move and every connection to royal status makes the crown look less dignified, and they believe the Sussexes have contributed to that growing perception.
Meghan are the new Fergie and Andrew. They cheapen the crown. The only thing HRH stands for in association with Meghan Markle is her ruthless homewreckerness, I guess. But I do not think that Meghan Markle should be utilizing the title. I think that this is just her way of trying to remind the world that she, for 18 months, was a royal.
During one of their earliest royal engagements together, the Queen generously invited Meghan to accompany her on the royal train. A gesture that many saw as a genuine sign of warmth and inclusion from a monarch, who certainly did not have to extend that invitation. It appeared to be a thoughtful opportunity for Meghan to spend time with the Queen and experience royal duties alongside her. However, when the engagement came to an end, and it was time for them to leave, Meghan reportedly walked ahead of the Queen and entered the vehicle before her. To someone unfamiliar with royal traditions, that might seem like a tiny detail that means absolutely nothing, but within royal protocol, it is considered far more significant. The monarch is not supposed to be casually preceded, and members of the royal family are expected to observe a clear order when walking and entering vehicles. It is one of those basic traditions of royal etiquette that has been followed for generations. Yet Meghan appeared to break that expected protocol during one of her first public outings with the Queen. Whether she simply did not understand the tradition at the time, or whether she did not consider it important enough to follow, is something only Meghan herself could truly answer. Whatever the reason, however, the impression it created was hardly positive. Especially because this happened during what was supposed to be one of their earliest moments of royal interaction together. It was an enormous royal occasion that cost a fortune, with the entire institution standing behind the wedding. Yet according to reports, Meghan refused to show the Queen her wedding dress beforehand. Despite this being described as a long-standing royal tradition and a simple gesture of courtesy. Elizabeth Anson, a close cousin of the Queen, reportedly shared this detail with biographer Sally Bedell Smith, and the revelation left many people stunned. The Queen, who was reportedly covering the cost of the wedding, was said to have felt saddened and uneasy in the period leading up to the ceremony. It was not simply the usual nerves or excitement surrounding a royal wedding, but reportedly, the feeling that the woman her grandson was about to marry could not offer her even a small gesture of consideration. The criticism was straightforward. If someone is paying for such an enormous wedding, critics asked, why would it be so difficult to let that person see the dress? To them, it became another example of Meghan allegedly ignoring royal expectations. And according to this narrative, even after the Queen's death, she could not completely escape controversy involving Meghan. On the second anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's passing in 2024, members of the royal family were quietly observing the occasion with solemnity and reflection. While people around the world were remembering one of the most influential monarchs in modern history. Meghan, however, attended an opera book club event, where she was seen smiling, networking, and generating attention around herself just before a day of remembrance for the royal family. Critics pointed out that there was no visible public acknowledgement of the anniversary and no obvious moment of reflection or tribute toward the woman whose family she had married into. To those critics, it looked as though Meghan once again managed to make the occasion about herself, even though it was connected to the death of the Queen. The Queen was widely loved and respected by millions of people. Yet critics claimed Meghan appeared to treat her simply as an older woman whose opinions did not deserve the same level of consideration. Before Meghan's wedding to Harry, the Queen reportedly attempted to help with the difficult situation involving Meghan and her father, Thomas Markle. She was even said to have instructed courtiers to assist in managing the fallout between them and finding a way through the growing family dispute. But instead of receiving a positive response, the Queen reportedly received word that Meghan did not want her intervention, that she intended to handle the matter herself, and that she did not need the palace stepping in to deal with something she believed she could manage independently. According to reports, Meghan did not engage with the palace's proposed approach to the situation. And then there was another moment that critics consider perhaps the clearest example of all. The Queen understood that Meghan was new to royal life, so she reportedly went out of her way to offer personal guidance and help her adjust to the demands that came with becoming a member of the royal family. A reigning monarch personally trying to make a new family member feel comfortable and supported would normally be seen as a generous gesture. Yet Meghan was reportedly uninterested in accepting that guidance and simply moved forward without it. The Queen was said to have been surprised by this reaction, especially when she could compare it with Sophie, who had reportedly welcomed the advice and guidance offered to her. It was the same royal family, but critics saw two very different responses, with one woman embracing the Queen's guidance and earning her trust, while the other was portrayed as dismissing it. In a later interview with the Sunday Times, Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, also discussed the effort to help Meghan deal with the difficulties of adjusting to life within the royal family. She explained that the family generally tried to support new members and help them find their way. But perhaps the biggest shock came when Harry and Meghan announced their decision to step back as senior royals on Instagram. According to reports, the Queen was caught off guard by the announcement, with no private conversation or personal courtesy taking place before the news was presented publicly to the world. Instead, the decision became an international spectacle almost immediately, giving the public and media a major story to analyze. For a monarch who was known for valuing privacy, discretion, duty, and respect, critics viewed the way the announcement unfolded as a major betrayal. Royal insiders reportedly claimed that the Queen had not been given advance notice before the public announcement, and that she was deeply hurt and disappointed by how everything had been handled. And while people can argue over whether Harry and Meghan had other choices, the reality is that they ultimately made their decision, and as far as they were concerned, they believed there was no other path available to them.
I haven't always gotten it right, but as far as this goes, there really was no other option.
They both lose their official links to the Queen's Commonwealth Trust and the Association of Commonwealth Universities. Meghan will no longer be patron of the Royal National Theatre.
The Queen called that meeting not simply in her role as monarch, but also as a mother who did not want to watch her children become divided. She was personally involved in trying to work out the terms of what became known as Megxit, bringing Charles, William, and Harry together for what was essentially a crisis-level family discussion. But at such a critical moment, what did Meghan reportedly choose to do? Rather than making the effort to be there with the Queen and the senior members of the family, she decided that she would simply phone in because it was more convenient. If that is not considered disrespectful, then it is difficult to know what is. The most senior members of the royal family were gathered together in person, yet Meghan's choice was to participate from a distance. The Queen had personally called for the summit, but Meghan did not attend and instead treated the meeting as though being physically present was unnecessary. By that point, it seemed increasingly obvious that she had already made up her mind about leaving and intended to follow through with that decision regardless of what anyone else wanted. The Queen deeply valued the Christmas season and especially wanted it to remain a time when the entire family came together, and she had one tradition that was almost unshakable. spending Christmas with the family at Sandringham. Yet Harry and Meghan went against that tradition more than once. In 2019, rather than joining the Queen at her much-loved Norfolk estate, the couple decided to spend a private holiday in Canada with their son Archie. Meghan went ahead with the trip, despite the fact that the Queen was reportedly hurt by their decision. Publicly, the royal family had to keep things polite, describing the couple as simply enjoying some private family time, but according to reports, the reality behind palace walls was far less comfortable. The decision raised plenty of eyebrows, because members of the royal family rarely missed Christmas at Sandringham, unless illness or official responsibilities made it unavoidable. Meghan's absence, in particular, fueled speculation that she was unwilling to follow the Queen's expectations or accept the traditions that came with royal life. Some courtiers reportedly viewed the decision as a quiet form of rebellion, with the couple choosing their own independence over one of the Queen's most important family gatherings. And honestly, you do not even have to be royal to understand why that could hurt. For most families, spending Christmas with grandparents and extended relatives is simply common sense, yet Harry did not spend another Christmas with the Queen after his marriage. Then there was the moment at Princess Eugenie's wedding to Jack Brooksbank that created another uncomfortable scene. When the ceremony ended at St. George's Chapel, Queen Elizabeth led the royal family outside to see the newlyweds off. Everyone else followed the traditional order of precedence and moved down the steps in the expected manner, but Harry and Meghan did not immediately follow along. Instead, they remained close to the Queen, appearing to position themselves where photographers could capture them standing beside Her Majesty. The Queen reportedly asked them to move further down the line, but they did not immediately do so, instead appearing to look around as though they were waiting for the carriage. She asked them again, and Harry can reportedly be seen telling Meghan that they should move, but the couple only shifted slightly before once again failing to follow the Queen's direction. By the third request, the Queen's patience appeared to have run out. She firmly instructed Harry and Meghan to move aside, and only then did they reluctantly make their way down the line. Meghan clearly did not appear pleased by the exchange, and her expression looked as though she was trying to hold back emotion. But regardless of how she felt, critics argued that neither of them should have put the Queen in a position where she had to give the same instruction 3 separate times. And then came a moment that critics considered to be on an entirely different level. On April 21, 2026, the world marked what would have been Queen Elizabeth's 100th birthday. King Charles paid tribute to his late mother, while senior members of the royal family took part in commemorations and unveiled items connected to the milestone. Meghan, meanwhile, reportedly launched 2 candles priced at $64 each, with the products being named after her children and connected to their full royal titles. Remember, Meghan had already given her daughter the name Lilibet, the deeply personal childhood nickname that Queen Elizabeth had carried throughout her life. Many critics had already questioned the choice, and believed the name had been used deliberately. So when a candle connected to that name appeared on the Queen's 100th birthday, the timing struck many people as something more than random. Instead of looking like an ordinary product launch, critics interpreted it as a calculated move that drew attention directly toward Meghan on a day that was supposed to be about remembering the Queen. Online reactions became extremely harsh, with some people even describing the timing in deeply disturbing terms. One Reddit commenter argued that the move was clearly intended to provoke the royal family on the Queen's birthday, and suggested that Meghan might not even care whether she sold a single candle. And when you look at the timing and the controversy surrounding the name, it is understandable why some people found the whole situation difficult to view as a simple coincidence.
She's released a candle. I'm sure you will be glad to hear it. It's going for 48 quid, or that's 96 Australian dollars, if you can bear to punt up your money for it.
Those were 13 moments when Meghan Markle was accused of publicly showing disrespect toward Queen Elizabeth II. Now I want to know what you think. Which of these moments do you believe was the worst of them all? Share your opinion in the comments, because I would love to hear which incident stood out to you the most. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, share it with others, and subscribe for more celebrity and royal commentary.